Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Simon, the president of Naperville Preservation. Welcome to the first presentation in our new series, The 10 Commandments of Timeless Design for Houses of Any Age. Our speaker here this evening is Tom Ryan, a practicing architect here in Naperville, who is also on our board of directors. Tom, you want to come up?
Oh. So it's 10 commandments, not the 10 commandments. This talk's not about fashion, which we kind of got a little confused there. It's basically don't build permanent things using social media as your guide. It's probably especially Instagram. There's my clothing thing. The idea for this series is really comes from my regular use of this book. I use it to share with clients. I bring it to meetings all the time. I use it to document really terms and words. It's a great book. It's called Get Your House Right. And this whole series is kind of inspired by this book. It's one of the very few that talks about every part of a house. It's very entertaining. It kind of talks about do this, don't do that. And like I said, I use it a lot as I'm sitting there at my desk designing, I'm thinking, oh, what about a gambrel roof? What is that supposed to be like? What are the proportions? What's the scale? I go to this book. I show it to my clients. A lot of my clients buy it and read the whole thing, which sometimes comes back to bite me because I'll be designing something and showing something to someone else and say, wait a minute, Tom. Page 58, it says, this arch is supposed to be rounded, not semi-curved. So that is that's sort of where this started. And then I was thinking, like, it's great for my clients, it's great for me, but how do I get this word out on the street more to just everyday people, even working on very simple things. You don't have to be working on a new custom house. It can be about restoring a porch. It could be about replacing your windows. It could be about all kinds of things, materials. It just has a lot of stuff. But the whole point was I needed to kind of simplify it. This is 250 pages, like lots of drawings and diagrams. And I'm always trying to think, how can I simplify things, right? It's a lot to simplify, but it's going to go over 10 different talks. This one happens to be about timelessness in general of architecture. The way I go about designing houses, whenever I'm designing something, I'm always thinking about these, and I've kind of got it broken down into just five. So it's about editing, which I'm not always really great at. And the whole thing is this is sort of an overview, but it's simplifying into 3 parts. Talk about it, put it on a postcard. So this whole talk is on a postcard. And then experience it, which is my walk the talk. So that's really going out and seeing it in person, walking around, which I think is a lot of you guys already know. I mean, it's really important to not get out of your car and just walk streets. You see so much more about details of houses that I do, and I think everybody does. And like I said, I already said that. The commandments are not mine. They're what I use on a daily basis.
So humble.
So the first thing I do is go to the dictionary, right? Look up what is it's AI dictionary. Not restricted to a particular time or date. So a lot of times I think of dictionary terms and I kind of question, like, does that really apply? It doesn't apply. It applies to some things that, the sunglasses here, that's, people say that's a timeless sunglasses, right? It doesn't restrict, it's not to a particular time or date. And well, sure it is. It's about people in the military wearing those glasses and everyone wearing them thinking that they're cool, right? Started with Douglas MacArthur, general in the Army, wore them as he kind of got on the beach in the Philippines. And then Tom Cruise, of course. The other things here are just pictures that I've taken over the years. That's in the Hamptons, that's in South Beach, and that's in Palm Springs. I think all of those definitely have a degree of timelessness. But residential architecture timeless this is where I get to the simplifying part. And I'll go through one. These are important because I'm going to go through. Next thing I'm going to do is take you through 5 projects of mine and show how I constantly look at these 5 things when I'm designing a house or an addition or just about anything. And these are important. If it's also, it doesn't have to do with a style. It's style blind, timelessness. Could be a modern house, could be a traditional house, could be anything. So scale relating to people, that's all the parts of the house. It's really walking up to the house. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel, the person part is the timeless part, right? That people aren't changing size or shape. If we suddenly became 20 feet tall, then all of this would be over, but we're still pretty much the same size. So that's why buildings appear timeless when they're comfortable. Timeless, the scale relates to everything from the house itself all the way to the panes and windows. You know, a pane in a window looks better when it's more horizontal, more vertical than horizontal, sort of just like a person. And you can see that in some of these examples. The next one is, kind of simple. For us, simpleness works with aesthetics, construction, circulation, conditioning, cost, and modifications. So that's another reason. And also, when you look at these buildings, you think, yeah, these are buildings that I've seen. I've seen all over in the North Shore in Chicago. You've seen them, and this is in the North Fork of the Hamptons, the Colonial there. But just kind of, that's the simple part of it. The next part is where we try to do our best, and that's with natural materials. When I'm designing a house, I want people to use natural materials because I think they age over time. They develop a patina. It's the reason we all go to Europe. We don't go to Europe to see new things. We don't go for the airplane ride. We really go to see things that are natural. And the reason they're like I said, I mean, they age well. The best case, it's interesting. I tell people look for materials that don't have warranties. Right? Stone doesn't have a warranty. Wood doesn't have a warranty. So, I mean, it's stone, wood, steel, concrete, and brick. Warranties, remember, are marketing tools. We get a bunch of guys sit around a table, and the higher the warranty is, they think the more they'll sell something. So if we don't have to do all of it, but as much as we can, natural materials will look better over time. They'll look better right off the bat too. Fourth one, this is the would they really work part of this. Brick soldier courses, everyone's seen them over windows. There's a brick opening, and then there's all these bricks that are up and down right over the window. And you have to look at that and you say, would that really work? Would that really hold up? It wouldn't, right? It would just collapse. Real brick openings over windows they're called gauged bricks, and they're all set to meet in a point, and they're a wedge against the pressure on the window. So that's one of those things that's a designed to build authentically. And then the last one is the answer should be yes to all but one. That's our no. When you're finished with a house, and it's probably a couple years old. If people ask me, is that an old or a new house? I'm like thrilled, right? I don't want them to think it's a new house. I want them to not know. And I think those are some of the best towns you go to and you see and you're like, is that new or is that old? And I think that's a question doesn't have to be answered. It's just about timelessness. And then, oops. Do I have to do that?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Okay. And that's why I decided to do this. Why should non-architects care? What I find in my industry is most people don't care. They don't care, or they don't know, or they've never been to a talk like this or know about this book or other books. I've got other books up here too that are similar kind of things if someone wants to look. I always feel like this is something regular folks can make a difference if they sense something is off and know where to look for solutions. That happens to me clients out there of mine have I've done something and someone said, hey, what about doing this? And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, that's a great, I mean, everybody lives in houses, everyone's traveled, we've all seen details, and if you like this kind of thing, you'll know where to look for solutions. All right. Now I'm just going to run through a couple examples. This is a classic second floor addition over a ranch house, which can really go sideways if you're not careful. Let's see, my drawing's so big. This was a second floor addition over this house. It was a brick ranch, very cut up inside. So it was something that was hard to look at in its old state. The scale of it, the reason why these are so interesting, because when you see this part of the brick is like where someone would do a typical second floor. So when you do more roof over a second floor in an addition like this, that line disappears. Typically, you'll see that someone will add a second floor, they'll make it taller, and it'll look top heavy. Most things don't look good top heavy. So that's why that when I do the new addition over here, it's really just a second floor built up under roofs. So whether those roofs are gambrel style roofs or they're gables, but it'll generally look better if it's not just a wall on top of a wall. This house becomes the simple composition is just that shape, that gambrel shape that goes around the whole house. They're a little bit longer on the sides, and they're the same in the back. So when you look at it from all sides, it feels like it's not just stuck on the front for a street. And it actually works. It's doing something inside. It makes some interesting shapes. So that kind of thing, I think, is really successful. It's not just because I did it, but it's just the way it works out. Natural, mostly. This is where I didn't win. The siding there is cement board siding, but it's very little, and that's really the only part of that house that's not natural material. Not that anyone know, but I just. And I've had people ask me if this house is, it's always been there, and I did a renovation. He said it's hard not to take the credit for that, but sometimes I'll say, oh yeah, it was like that before. The next slide, this is just to show oops, I'm gonna do this wrong every time though. Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. This is inside that house. It's completely different from the exterior. But one of the things that I can do as an architect and I know structure. Basically, the floor joists in this house are 16 inches deep. Normally, they don't have to be that wide, but I want them to span a long distance, so the inside could be relatively adaptable to anything. So someone could come along later and completely change the inside of this house. Because it's a new second floor, it doesn't matter how thick the floor is, because we're building a new staircase anyway. So that's part of keeping something timeless, is the scale again. The 8-foot ceiling, this is an 8-foot ceiling. Everyone's really afraid of 8-foot ceilings, right? They come to me and say, oh, I don't know about this house, it's got an 8-foot ceiling. Well, there's been, look all over the East Coast, almost every house that can't be changed historically is an 8-foot ceiling. And those are in all the magazines, right? So it's not about the ceiling height, it's about the interiors that you do with these things. And all of that thickness in the floors can be hidden by that roof again. I should just ask you to change the slide.
While you're switching, it looks very nice and nice big windows, but it looks like it's about 18 inches to the next house.
Yeah. It's not 18, it's 12 feet. But yeah, this is
not much of a view.
Yeah, that's the side. But look at all those windows, right? I mean, how many people have how many windows in their house? And the best part about small houses, I do big houses too, but small houses are great. You're only about 6 feet from a window, no matter where you're standing in the house. Not to bash McMansions, but most McMansions are dark. Walk in some of those houses, they need the lights on during the day, which a lot of these houses don't need that. Do you want me to do it?
Give me a second. There's a little doohickey showing at the bottom. I can't hardly see it. It's so tiny.
Yeah, there is right over here. Yeah, sorry, there we go.
Right there?
Yep, perfect.
All right.
This is good. Okay. Thank you. This is a house on Chicago Avenue.
My old house.
Oh, yes.
We sold it. We
That's
put
right.
a great addition on it with all the different.
Nice. And this house was moved from another location and put onto a new foundation. So it had the advantage of having a modern basement and foundation, which a lot of you guys, if anybody owns old houses in here, we know the foundations are always, kind of like not the best part of an old house. So this house was moved there. I did the addition to this house. This is the same thing. Scale is pretty easy in something like this. It's like, look at the language of the house and the architecture. You're basically copying it. A lot of this talk is going to be about how easy this is, right? If you just keep your eyes open and kind of look at what you've got to work with. Again, two-story, very simple two-story addition. This is so interesting. This is some of the things where like that drawing, I'm looking at this now. The drawing on top, you can see the new windows over there don't have buttons in the windows. And I think that was because the original didn't have them. But that got changed probably with the client, which somebody that knew something about it and said, I want buttons in the windows. And you can see how much better it looks in real life than my drawing. So, I mean, not tons, but material, stone and cedar. This is a great example of a house that I'm working on now on Aluna Street. That this siding is only 2 1/3 inch. The exposure is very small, and the very bottom it has this little bead on it, little rounded bead, and it makes such a difference looking at this house. You get all of these houses. If you're walking along, if you walk up to them and want to look at them closer, just mention that you know me. Some of these are interesting. I should have close-ups of them, but natural stone and cedar with the beaded edge. The authenticity obviously is pretty easy. You're just matching to a beautiful old house, and like I said, can you tell if it's old or new? That's important when it comes to historic renovations. One of the things here is you can tell that it's new, the addition, and that's on purpose. You can see there's the long windows between the two. That was intentional. I intentionally dropped that down. That's a staircase. I intentionally dropped that down so 100 years from now, someone could tell what was new and what was old. What we don't want to do is just mash the two together and pretend like it was all done at the same time. I think when we do additions, that's part of this whole timeless thing too, is that it's we don't mind things being built over time. We just want them to be tastefully done and kind of respect the old house without just making it longer. Okay, next up. Oops, sorry.
And do next. Do next.
Do what? Oh, yeah.
Go there. There you go.
You tell I do a lot of these. I like sitting at my desk with my coffee and designing. Yeah. Two-story addition. This was in the back. You can see on the picture on the right. This is a really quirky addition. Had a two-story space with a spiral stair. Not very, sympathetically done to the existing house. The homeowners were not imagining what I was going to ask for them to do, and it was really to imagine the house. What would it have looked like if somebody did it from the start and didn't have that on the back? And the idea really was to take a cue from the front here, which is a flat roof, which I normally don't love, but that was a character to this house. It might have been a bigger porch at some time. So I decided that would be really interesting to have that as sort of a bookend to this house and do that on the east side of the house. Again, super simple matching materials. This is done by Acorn Custom Homes, and it's insane the kind of details on this house. If you walk up to this is closer to the street, so you probably could do it without them seeing. But it's all done with natural materials. There's nails where no one's trying to hide nails. They're beautifully, perfectly done. It looks like all the siding comes out of like an extrusion machine. Well done, and it still looks fantastic today. This was years ago.
Is this also invented?
Yes.
Yes.
Like I said, these running through these things, the scale, these are all kind of easy. Scale relates to the house. I put the little guy on there on each one of the pictures because all the drawings are a little bit, the scales are different. I just did it so they would be on the screen. Simple composition, that's pretty much as simple as you can get it to be. Simple is really important. A lot of architects, and I kind of did this in the very beginning. I've been doing this for a long time now, 26 years in my own business. But used to just, drawings can get away from you and overcomplicate something. And then when you go and see it being framed, you're like, oh my God. So it's one of those things where, those are houses I did up north, so you guys want to gotten better. So they call it practice, right? They say, architects, doctors bury their mistakes, architects cover them with vines. That's frankly right. That wasn't even on my script. Okay. What else here? Natural materials, that's easy. Authentic, old and new. Okay. Next. This was a great project. The number one request from the homeowner was, I don't want my house to be taller than my neighbors. So this is pretty unusual, right? In the McMansion era, where you see these houses towering next to neighbors. He didn't want it because he knew that I told him we could make it a new house. It's not a new house. It's an addition to this house, which we've seen a lot in, this isn't in Saybrook. But I kind of convinced him that, and you can see the roof lines there. I've got a picture of the back on the next slide. That you could, again, this is sort of like the rooms under the roof idea, not the rooms and then sticking a gable on top, because that's what everybody wants. Whenever like a client comes to me and says I need more peaks, and I'm like, I find some way to like not work with them. So those are peaks, but it's like it's really, you can see the outline of the old house there, and then how we sort of, it's almost like draping roofs over an existing house, and then using that language around the house. The scale, like I said, that was like already taken care of by my client. Simple, really repeating the same kind of gables, natural materials, stone, and these are actually wood shakes right there. Yeah. And the cool part about that was that these are shakes that are on boards. They're not nailed up individually. And if you look closely, you can see the two gables that are on top of the front door. You can see the shadow line is a little bit bowed. So those gables up there just have this slight bow on each one of the gables in the siding themselves. So it just adds just a little kind of a fun touch that you might not see in a regular house. What do we have? And then here, this is another one of my, see, you've noticed the stone, right? This is a crazy thing that we see all the time, is the stone is a structural material, it's not decorative. So my rules are stone has to be under the floor. Stone has to be under the floor and look like it's supporting the floor, like in an old house. Or it has to be on the whole wall, not in between. So we always, in the architecture community, we joke about dipping a house in stone and how much you can afford, right? You'll see a lot of houses with stone kind of just, I don't know, let's put it here, you know? So that's one of those things that that shows a timeless kind of scale. It's not something that's going to be pinned to the 1995. Do the stone all the way up the wall or underneath the floor. The older new part, don't dwarf your neighbors. That was fantastic. Next. This is the back of the house.
Very close. Very close.
So those same gables come through the back of the house. And again, you can see over there that that's the other house where we're not above that old house. These houses are from the 60s. This just happened to be, and those are the actual, we changed the siding on the back. That's, I'm looking at the builder back there. And again, here's not, I mean, I'm just looking at this. Another thing that the top windows over here on the left, you can kind of see the bow above there, the shadow line.
Yeah.
That's a 2-story family room with beams and stuff like that. But keeping those windows, they look like they're aligned with the second floor. It makes it look like it might be a second floor of a room. The fun part about it is I've worked with people that look at this house from their backyard, and they comment how fun it is to look at this house in the backyard instead of. I don't have anything against the salt box colonial that's square. I really don't. I think the houses in Saybrook and a lot of old neighborhoods are worthy of preservation, worthy of saving. But I've run into people that just say, "Oh, my house is probably a tear down," right? And it's like, well, you don't have the right architect. You know, it's not a tear down. It's all these things can be. You know, it wasn't cheap to do this, but still, at the end of the day, you know, we happen to live in a crazy town that just never seems to stop with these valuations. But anyway, so that's that. Back of the house. That's it. Getting good at this, Bill. Just leave it there. This is the new house on Brainerd. This is a great story too. This house we tried to design this to make it look old. The homeowner requested that this house look like an addition was put on 2 times. So the first part is the brick that you see with the gable, and then we wanted it to appear like they had a garage put on next, and then they infilled the spot in between that. So there's different materials, and the first part is obviously brick, but that was their request. This is the tallest of the 5 examples. It's a tall house. It's almost 40 feet tall to the roof. But that was sort of the challenge, was just how do we make that scale to a person then? You're like, holy cow, 40 feet. You can see the guy there, right? But that all these things were this. If you want this thing to look like an old house, it's got to be popped up off the ground. It can't be 6 inches out of the ground. It's a little bit of a grander house, so it's a high style house. So the ceilings are a little bit taller, but everything really relates to all the posts, the how you get into the house. The porches always help. You know, the 2 things that really make a difference are porches and materials that are scaled to a person. Scale and simple, right? Materials here are stone, brick, cedar, copper. Everything was studied on this house, down to the mortar. You notice how the mortar is darker on this house? Most people do mortar and brick, and they do like a contrasting. It's white or it's gray, and it really makes all the brick pop. Well, that was a sort of to kind of dumb down that idea and do a darker mortar. Lots of tests were done on that until we got to that right. And a lot of this is John. The homeowner was very involved, engineer, which I normally don't love working with, but sorry, Bill. This is an example of someone who, like, if you kind of can't see it that well, but I drew bricks right here. I drew windows with gauged brick over the windows. And John said, this is right up the street from Fifth Avenue Station, right? And if you go to Fifth Avenue Station, the windows look just like that in the real picture. They're actually little arches, not arch windows. So they don't spend big bucks on arched windows. But there's a little infill panel. So he said, what about that? And I said, oh my God, that's perfect. So that was, one of those things where sort of the educated consumer is our best customer thing. This is an example of that. Also translates to the inside. This is looking down that covered porch that's in the back. Just sort of a intentionally quirky space that connected the house to the porch back there. There's a fireplace back there. But we want it to look like this was part of the house and that was added later. So that's why you see, normally you wouldn't need stone inside of the covered porch, but it all added to the authenticity of the house. Next. And the bricks they're actually, they're not real bricks. They're from like one of those paver places. But I thought they were okay. This is another don't fear the 8-foot ceiling example. This is a house off of Hobson Road, way back. There's a long driveway. And this house, people could have done anything they wanted. Could have torn down the house. But it was really important to have this cozy feeling of an 8-foot ceiling. And I'm not preaching about 8-foot ceilings, but a lot of houses have 8-foot ceilings, and it's not all the end of the road for them. I feel like just decorators are really, really important in this kind of thing. This doesn't even look like this anymore. It's been changed already. This is the kind of house where they're getting rugs made in India just for the house. Going to places, picking out colorways and all that. So it's not about how much money you have. It's about the kind of feeling you want. So this is, again, 8-foot ceilings. A lot of that was originally there, the beam. So, and the house was completely changed, the inside. We kept most of the outside. It doesn't hurt to have a beautiful pond to look at and all that stuff. But like I said, finding the interior designer, decorator, those are really important in all this. This is like just little details make that door that you see that's open there. That's a 4-panel door, which is most people don't even like kind of think about. That's an old looking kind of door, 4-panel door. I fought with the builder about sorry, about making. I wanted these to be wood doors, and so the compromise was to do them MDF, which is like a plastic kind of thing. But I wanted to see the grain. I wanted to see paint brush marks on this door. So what we did that. They rolled the doors, and then someone actually brushed them, and they look fantastic. I mean, you can kind of see it in the picture. That turned out great. So just a bunch of stuff that's fun. That now we're gonna go down south.
Whoa.
This is a house in Coconut Grove. I went to a conference in 2005. Took this picture. And I photoshopped, there were like 3 dorky architects in there, and I photoshopped them out. So skill. You can kind of see people over there. This house was built by an architect for his family. Max Strang is his name. And his name is not on the postcard. I have like kind of sources of inspiration on here. So this is an example of a modern house. He's a modern architect. So if you look at his website, you'll see all these same principles implied in a modern house. Scale, materials, all those things. So it's not specific to traditional houses. This house was built a year before I took this picture. So it's they had just moved in, and we got to go see this. I get to see a lot of really cool houses that most people don't get to see because they're not open to the public, and they're just great houses. But this is it's a 1-story house that it's 6,000 square feet. the top part is a complete. It's a covered porch, but it's got this gorgeous. These are all natural materials. The stone from Miami. That's EPA, I think, on the top. Steel, concrete, and stone. So that's an entire. You can look up this house once you see his website. It's called the Rock House. It's fantastic. We got to walk around the whole thing and meet him. But the best part about it is that the house was sold in 2018, 13 years later. And it kind of looks the same, right? It almost looks cleaner. And then my picture was 20 years ago. So, and they added this pool and everything like that. But kind of the idea is that this is a house where, like, right in the beginning, someone asked, is it old or is it new? I don't know. But it's not about how old it was, or it's about how it was built, how it was cared for. And this house is actually used in for the film adaptation of Miami Vice in 2006. And I guess he lived there, a drug dealer. So 13 years later, okay. And I think that's maybe, oops. 10 minutes of the talk is Tom doing it. So, that's the book. Sources of inspiration. Anderson stocked the book for us. So if you guys want to get the book, the book is actually, like, really, I mean, I've had clients read this whole thing. It's entertaining. It's like, actually, if you like houses, I mean, of course I like it more than you do, but my copy at home has got, I think I highlighted I read every single word in this book, and there's highlights all over the place. Oh, one thing I forgot to, I made a little graphic. I forgot to do a slide. So this is a really, like, just a basic description of timelessness and houses, right? It's about design and construction. That's the bottom line. And then after that, who's designing it and why are they designing it? This is going to get you to a timeless house. And then in the construction again is, what are the materials you're using and how are they being used? So those are all the fundamentals of what makes all these things interesting. These are architects that I have some notes here too. Oh, I always say books over Instagram, right? Buy books, look at books. Publishers don't want to print things that are trendy. They want them to sell for a long time. So that's why books are generally a better bet than, I know everyone scrolls on Instagram. Instagram also has a funny thing, is that the more followers that are on the people you're following, the more trendy these things are going to get, the more echo chamber. I guess it's one of those things where it's like more followers, more trendy, more temporary, and more dated. Because what you're doing is you're basically copying something that everyone else is copying. And books, like I said, I mean, these architects, here's my recommendation is look at these architects. There's nothing on their sites that's not right. Nothing. I mean, they do very high-end stuff. But there's nothing wrong with looking at that either. It's not like we're all doing $40 million houses on the ocean, but every little detail matters. So if you can do your porch as well as they do, it's not that hard. And then if you follow them on Instagram, you'll see who they follow. And that's an interesting way to do it too, because you'll see that they've got some, this is Strang, this is Max, the architect that I showed you from Miami. And this final one, it's Institute of Classical Architecture. There's a Midwest chapter, something a lot of people have never heard of, but they, it's a lot of architects and interior designers, but they also want everyone to join as, that's why I say enthusiasts. They're in Chicago. They have amazing events all year long. They're hooked up with, if you look at their website, it's kind of insane, all the great videos they have on gardens. They have tours. They have things in Chicago you can go to. They have parties on rooftops of cool buildings. That they want as many people as possible to be involved, just like I do. So look up them if you want. It's a fun group. you can't join like AIA stuff. That's boring. You're just a bunch of architects. But these people do, they do tours of houses, and a lot of things that most people don't ever get to see in the North Shore. They do things all over the world. They have trips to Sicily you can go on, and they're trips to Venice where you go in these, crazy like palazzas you can never go to as a normal person. So check them out. That's cool. And what annotate? That's it. Thank you. And then, so this Saturday, we're doing a thing called Walk the Talk. I invented that. And that's the third part of, showing things or talking about them. I don't know what my three things were, but going to see things, like we all know.
We're just going to mention that
Oh.
the postcard from tonight is for this episode. There's going to be a unique postcard for every episode. So think about coming and collecting all of them. And we'll pass those around.
Oh, we got the address on there.
Collect all 10, you have all 10.
Yeah.
There it is. It's pretty simple.
If you get all 10, you can be an architect.
For a day.
You'd help me, yeah. It all helps.
Are there any questions?
So what's the next one?
Oh, the next one, huh?
April 10th.
April 10th.
There it is. She knows.
It's supposed to be every other month, but I screwed up the first one, so sorry. It's worse for me, but yeah, there's also books up here. This is
That's it.
this is a book, right? This is the foreword in this book is written by King Charles. So that shows you it's pretty, he was very involved and still is involved in good things with architecture. This is the book he did in '89. This is a book. A. Hayes Town is an architect from Louisiana. He's no longer living, but he was one of the first persons to put together houses that had character. He wanted to use reclaimed lumber, use bricks. He wanted to make the house feel like it was already warm and cozy before people moved in. This is a book, Russell Versace. This is called The New Old House. And these houses are all new. And they're you look at these houses and there's no way these are new houses. But they take, it takes us a lot of effort to do this and pull this off. But they do it and they give you sort of, they go through staining the stone before the client moves in. So it looks like it's, there's a lot of crazy things, but it's fun. And then this is another similar book to this one. Same kind of, they kind of knock things. It's fun. So as long as you don't see anything in your house that isn't here, sorry, but it's as they do. When you go to your neighbor's party, just don't stare at the mistakes.
So the Saturday walk
Saturday walk.
is meant to,
Walk the talk the line.
The Saturday walk is meant to, it's going to be on Columbia Street, and it's really meant to talk about some of the things that I talked about here, but in person. I've done 4 houses on that street over the years, and I've got little fun stories about each one that I won't tell you now. Anyway, and well, yeah, 2 of them I'm working on now, and the other ones we're in construction. But they talk about this kind of thing in person, and it's an hour, and it's not like so. Please come and crowd the street. People think, what the heck is that?
so it's at 1 o'clock. So you can go to the St. Patrick's Day Parade first. That was part of
Right. Yeah, we didn't want to do it earlier and steal all those people away. That's it. Any questions or anything? I answered everything.
You did, as always.
Great.
No.
Yeah, just outside.
I need a quick
What do you think is
public
what do you think is the biggest challenge to start the design process?
My design
Yeah.
process?
Besides all the timelessness, I mean,
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, not the budget. I don't care about that.
I know.
Oh, my clients are going, yeah, I
Yeah,
know. No, the budget isn't. But it's not really that. I think you can come up with great design without spending a lot of money. Not always, but it's definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's some of it is just dealing with each person's different, their experiences. Have they done usually not worked with an architect before? So that's one of those things where it's fun and we just have fun working on things and but I think yeah, I don't really have a lot of people just they don't at this it's been 26 years, so it's a little easier because people come to me from people that know people other and so gets easier as an architect as time goes on. No one hands me a piece of paper and says, and here's my house I want to draw. They just show me the lot and say, I want a house. And which is nice. A lot of people think architects, they're handed like drawings and say, here, make this a house. Maybe some are, but it doesn't ever work out like that. So yeah, I guess I don't know if that wasn't really a good answer, but I talked long enough that we can.
It seemed,
When you do a design, from design to the finish, how much does stuff change? I mean, and are you happier if it doesn't change from beginning to end, or do you like to see it sort of evolve a little bit?
I like to see people involved for sure. Making, sometimes I'll do something and people won't say anything. I'm gonna like, okay, now I got to look at it again. There has to be something here that's not. Yeah, and maybe that sometimes the hardest part too is having people imagine what the house is going to be like to live in. A lot of times I'll work with people that come from like a big kind of cookie cutter house, and they've got certain rooms they remember the sizes, and then when they come into downtown Naperville and they want to do a more of a custom smaller house, it's really hard to get people to look past sizes. They always say, well, wait a minute, let me look, how big was our kitchen back then? And like, it's a completely different, it's a completely different house. So that's one of the challenges is sort of that bridging that, the gap of a cookie cutter house versus a custom house. And I try to make it so the spaces are used for different things. Again, scale. I do big houses, but I love doing small houses because I think I always tell people I want you to go on more vacations with your kids. Then they'll remember that more than they will the granny you picked. So anyway.
so I'm wondering about fireplaces.
Yes.
Because there's been one house I knew of where the location of the fireplace dictated quite a lot about what could be done. And I wondered if you have had that situation
In an existing.
in an existing house.
Usually, I mean, kind of my job is like problem solving. The weirder the problem, the better sometimes, so it's like there's always a solution to something. And you can, I mean, if it's something if the budget is such that you're not going to move a fireplace or take it out, sometimes it makes sense to do like that yellow house where it didn't make sense to do a quirky addition on top next to another quirky addition. It was better just to take that off. And you'll find that a lot of times, even taking off, I'm working on a house near the railroad tracks on Slate Street, and it has just the foundation is rubbly, kind of just really bad in the back. So it was better to take that off and start again, just with a single kind of a room. But so It's amazing. They're all so different. I don't work in any of the same houses twice, so it all depends on fireplaces they're important. I mean, they're expensive things if you want to rebuild it somewhere. But a lot of times it's interesting too in my poster here. I kind of quick drew this house, right? And I drew the chimney in the middle, right? Like, and it's someone who read my book or that book would say, Tommy, I thought you said that's not a good idea. Yeah, because what a chimney does in the middle, right? It's like where you have roof coming. Now all of a sudden you've chopped that in half, the structure for the roof. So now you have to create new ways to get that load down to the ground. Whereas if you just moved it over a bit, you wouldn't have that issue. You could come through it wouldn't be chopping through the ridge. And also a lot of older chimneys there's all kinds of stories about chimneys look better when they're internal. Like sometimes you want the chimney to look great on the outside of the house, and sometimes you move it to the inside of the house because of where it comes out of the roof, and how it works as a floor plan. But yeah, fireplaces and chimneys are all different. I know you have a question. Okay, that's it.
Right.